Christianity and Buddhism have a tremendous amount of overlap, although they are definitely mutually exclusive. They do contradict each other in certain ways. So I'm not advocating
Yeah.
universalism or anything like that.
Hmm.
But for example, the moral practices of Christianity and Buddhism are very similar.
Hmm. True.
They both advocate not killing, not taking intoxicants, not having sexual misconduct, not stealing, not lying.
Hmm.
They both advocate generosity. They both advocate a kind of restraint, sensory restraint.
Hmm.
Um, there's an element of asceticism in both, where you deprive yourself in order to have better long-term happiness.
Hmm.
They both believe that the actions you take in life affect what happens to you after you die.
Hmm.
They both believe in heavens and hells. Christianity believes in one heaven and one hell. They both believe in ghosts and non-physical beings. In Christianity, they're called angels and demons. In Buddhism, they're just called hungry ghosts or devas
Hmm.
or demons. The difference between Christianity and Buddhism is that Christianity says that there's this creating God and that he is kind of orchestrating all this. And that when we die and go to heaven, it's permanent. We stay there forever. The key is the permanence of
Hmm.
it. Buddhism says that it's all kind of chaotic. It's just samsara. There's no one in charge. There are gods. There are even creator gods, but there's more than one, and they're not permanent. They could die and be reborn elsewhere. Their life might be millions of years long or longer, but even they're impermanent. So there's no permanent God, creating God in Buddhism. And then in Buddhism, when you die and go to heaven or hell or wherever you go, it's impermanent.
Hmm. Yeah.
So those are the key differences. But there's a huge amount of everyday similarity when it comes to like how am I living my life. So right now, I just find it more practical to kind of like identify as a Christian,
Hmm.
get along with my Christian family, um, have Christian community, bond with them over Christian
Yeah.
ideas. Um, Christianity also really helps us understand the world as fundamentally a conflict between good and evil.
Yeah. True.
The Christianity has this idea that the wicked will always rule,
Hmm.
and I believe that's the case. I believe that society is incredibly corrupt, and that part of wisdom is just realizing that the good guys are always going to be the underdog, and that evil people will always be at the top.
Yeah.
And so Christianity is much more helpful in terms of coping with how terrible the world is.
Hmm.
And then prayer is just extraordinarily effective.
Hmm.
I mean, like when you pray to God, it's nice. Like you get results from that. It's a lot more accessible than
Yeah.
jhana.
True. Hmm.
Yeah.
So, do you believe in the theology of Christianity or Buddhism? Like, seems like you're living like a lifestyle of, I guess, the Christian, but like, what is your metaphysical, like, the true thing that you actually believe? Wondering.
I think the hardest metaphysical issue that I grapple with is the issue of rebirth.
Okay.
Like I look at the work of Ian Stevenson, MD, and Jim Tucker, MD. These are researchers at the University of Virginia who have spent their professional careers documenting cases of past
Mm.
lives, children who have
Yeah.
memories of past lives. And they've worked so hard to try to debunk and explain this phenomenon. Like, how can this child have this knowledge that they couldn't possibly have other than by having been that person? Like, you'll have a 4-year-old living in London who knows about some kid in Scotland, some adult man in Scotland who died 5 years ago by drowning in some lake,
Mm.
right? And the kid will know all these details, and he'll say, "I was that person."
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cases like this that are documented by professional academics and
Mm-hmm.
physicians, Jim Tucker and Ian Stevenson, and it perfectly matches Buddhist cosmology,
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but Christians will never admit that it's possible to be reborn as a human being if you're already a human
Mm-hmm.
being. Christians believe that if when you die, you're reborn into either heaven or hell, and that's the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the main metaphysical cognitive dissonance that I have with
I see.
Christianity.
Okay. I'll have to look into that too. That's fascinating.
Oh yeah, man, and I've scoured the entire internet and all of Reddit, like looking for people to
Mm-hmm.
debunk Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker. And by the way, they've been documenting this stuff since like the 50s.
Wow.
Like there's thousands of cases over a long period of time of these, children with memories of past
Mm-hmm.
lives. No one can give you a good answer.
Mm. It's crazy.
So it's intriguing evidence of Buddhist of the correctness of Buddhist cosmology, or at least one specific aspect of it, which is that a human can be reborn as a human,
Mm.
and that the mind does not die after death with the body. Although Christians believe that too. Christians believe in this kind of perpetual soul, but Christians would never say that when the body dies, your soul can take rebirth as a human
Yeah,
again.
that's fascinating.